God says explicitly in the Bible what Christians shall do and how Christians shall view Israel and how we should support Israel. All of that is laid out. And until the Bible changes, then my stance on it will never change.
What do you think is the root of, dividing Christians and Jews? Now you're getting all those comments,
The reality is, these people are just saying these things because they cannot combat the truth. They cannot argue or debate with what is out there as the truth. They have nothing but emotionalism and lies and propaganda to push. And I think it's a few angles here that create this type of mentality in people. And one is a spiritual battle. I think God has given a lot of people over to what we call a reprobate mind. He's given them over to their own lusts and their own devices. And therefore they're falling off of a cliff. And you can see them very clearly.
Did you know I was personally dragged into the whistleblowing about the sexual abuse, trafficking of vulnerable women at the nonprofit organization with a false accusation by the female central to my story? I had support from some famous people like...
One man told me about being beaten by the police and left permanently disabled because of a woman's false allegation.
Ted Cruz says right in the camera, I was elected, my main goal was to help Israel.
I came into Congress 13 years ago with the stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate. And I've worked every day to do that.
Really? How was you get elected on a platform in which you say publicly, my main goal is to help another country? This is deranged. Where's our self-respect? I'm very interested in how American leaders could betray their own country.
Hello, it's November 2025. Now, this video is going to be more along the lines of religions and belief systems. So if you're not into these topics, then feel free to go watch something else. Now, some might ask, why do I talk about this particular topic from time to time? First off, if there's enough people asking me the same types of questions about this topic or something specific about this topic, then perhaps it's time to do a video to address this, because guaranteed there's other people who have the same type of questions on these topics. And second of all, because these topics, whether you adhere to religions, belief systems, the Most High, or nothing at all, these topics do impact the world that we live in. And this is key. Now, these types of topics, it's said that we're not supposed to talk about certain topics socially or even publicly, because you're just not supposed to. Well, here's the thing. These are the types of topics that we need to discuss. And the importance of it is, for one, it gets everyone on at least the same page. Maybe not the same paragraph, the same sentence, but at least it gets everyone on the same page. And when people don't talk about certain things, whether it be these topics here or politics or anything else, then it creates an opportunity for division. And then we see each individual having their own position on something based on their limited knowledge basis. So anyway, I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but it does tie into the world that we live in, because these topics of religions and belief systems play a massive role in what's happening in the world today. For example, with wars and different types of events that are taking place, right down to, for example, someone being taken from life publicly. And it's all interconnected. So there is a great importance that we discuss this openly. Now, I'm said this many times before when I'm talking about these topics, is that religions and belief systems have little to nothing to do with the Most High. And right there, this will rub some people very badly. And then you'll have some people thinking, well, yes, they agree to that based on their religion or belief system, because they're looking at it from the perspective of, yeah, they're correct. So how does this all tie into with what's going on in the world today? Well, you have the, as a loose descriptive, three primary religions that pretty much dominate the world and what's happening in the world. And I'm going to be word crafting here for reasons. And again, this is no diss towards these religions and belief systems or the individuals within. I'm just simply going to be tying this into with what's happening in the world. Specifically, one topic that I've noticed that's really being talked about, probably more so in the Western culture because of Christianity. And this has to do with people discussing, debating, proving or disproving this thing called Satan's little season, which is from Christian doctrine. When you look at the foundation of, for example, Christianity, that religion, belief system, has changes within itself, well-documented changes. For example, we have the original text reading the 12 sons of God, and quoting that, which was eventually changed to the 12 tribes of a nation. There's issues with that as well. So we see those kind of changes. And then we see with Christianity, for example, how they came along and made changes for themselves. Like, for example, their Messiah being born of a virgin. The original text from the foundation of their religion says that the Messiah would be born from a young woman. And we can really notice this change, for example, when Christianity translates their holy book, which is called they call the Bible, and the Bible just means the book, back into the foundation of their religion language, and it reads virgin. So there's two different words that are being used there. But we see these are just a couple of examples of a plethora of different types of changes. But everyone's convinced that their holy books are the ones that are preserved and whatever, which is fine. And then we have the third major religion of the world attaching themselves to both of these, primarily the one that's the foundation to Christianity. I'm focusing on Christianity not to pick on them or whatever, but this whole idea of Satan's little season does stem from Christian doctrine, and how people are talking, for example, that Satan, according to Christian doctrine, the enemy of the Most High, is running this world. And we can see how, as a descriptive, wickedness, evil has just run rampant in this world, not even being hidden anymore. But we can also see this as a progression of the cycles of civilization and the patterns within. And this ties into with something that religions and belief systems, all of them, have something called prophecies. Prophecies are really the written down agendas that are given. That's what's going to take place, like a playbook. And people really stick by these things, especially in a time like in today's world where everything's in total mess. People are struggling to eat, pay bills. There's so much micromanaging from governments all around the world, and nations are falling because of the introduction of new individuals and everything else. Everything has just gone into mayhem, and this is causing people a lot of trauma. And now people are trying to hang on to something, try to find answers, what's going on, and so forth. And they're turning to, for example, in this case, Christianity and Christian doctrine, and trying to understand, well, these are end times, these are Satan's little season, whatever, they're trying to hang on to, because people are becoming more and more desperate. And it's just a natural progression of how things work out. But when you look at this Satan's little season, which for people who are not very familiar, you can probably look this up on your own to get a more in-depth explanation, but I'm just going to be very brief and simple about this. So there comes a time in Christian doctrine where Satan, who was bound for 1,000 years, is released for a short period of time in this world and is allowed to just basically do whatever he wants, trying to get as many souls, as a descriptive, to turn towards him, to deceive the world, and basically elevate immorality to a level unprecedented, according to Christian doctrine. So this is the time where Satan has just taken over everything and is doing whatever he can to cause complete chaos, mayhem in this world. It's understandable why people are turning towards that and trying to understand what's happening, and they're searching for something they hang on to. Now, I've said very clearly that in order to be able to, as a descriptive, predict, to foresee what's going to be happening next, is to learn the patterns within the cycles of civilization. You don't need a crystal ball. There's not one particular source to go to. But once you're able to see, as a descriptive, the elements of these patterns, and you can start to see what's happening with other things, say new things that come up, and figure everything out. This is why it's important to know these things, so it aids with survival. And that's all we can do in this world, is survive without compromising ourselves. And it doesn't matter what social title you have, what job description you have, where you're at in life, or anything else. Everyone's in the same boat when it comes to surviving this world, especially in today's world where everything is absolutely falling apart. And as I've described in other videos, surviving this game, if you think of this world as a game board and the human species as the game pieces, and when you start to look into the actual history, for example, I mentioned the original text saying the 12 sons. These 12 sons had wives and offspring themselves, which this whole world was divided up among them. Things start to make a lot more sense. And I'm just going to segue for a moment. When you have this, the basis of Christianity, that religion, how they have their God being Yahweh, and no one's certain on how it's pronounced because there's no vowels in that. These are all things that are added in trying to pronounce the word. We don't even know what language it was or anything else to be able to say anything about it. But this God Yahweh was one of the 12 sons of God, presumably God being, in this case, the Most High, who created everything. And over time, Yahweh became the Most High. Just like we see, for example, with Christianity, how more and more Christianity is accepting the Son of Yahweh as God, the Most High. And this is when I say, for example, religious and belief systems have little to nothing to do with the Most High, and I talk about the Most High, people automatically default thinking Yahweh or Jesus in Christianity. No, that's not what I'm saying about the Most High. But anyway, I'm digressing here. So knowing the different religions, especially the three top ones that I've been referring to, will give you insight as to what's being played out in this world. And what's being played out right now is the Christian end times, as well as the foundation of Christianity, that religion, their end times, and they're kind of being molded together. And everything that's happening, basically with the destruction of the civilization, is self-fulfilling by human beings, making things happen to convince people that it is happening. But it's not happening organically, it's happening through deliberate design by human beings. And the different characters, for example, in the end times prophecy of Christianity have already been played out on stage. For example, there was one part where there's two characters in the end times of Christianity, the Antichrist, which everyone's heard of, and the Beast, which many people may have heard of. And one of them has an injury to the head, the Antichrist, but survives. And everyone marvels at this being a miracle. Well, when you actually look at somewhat recent events where there was a world leader who survived somewhat of a head injury, I guess, with not what people may have thought it to be a head injury, but a head injury nonetheless, survives. People are marveling at that. And you see, for example, the Christian community saying, yes, this has all been prophesied, and this is what's bringing people in the Western culture, because the Western culture is founded on Christianity, to side with the group which is the foundation of Christianity, giving them support without question. Now what we're starting to see today is that some of these people are actually challenging what's happening today, and those who are using the foundation of Christianity to support their deeds and what they're doing in the world today. And I'm trying to think of a descriptive hiding behind all that, basically, again, to support. And when you think about the Christian doctrine of the end times, and for example, this group that is using the foundation of Christianity religion, it says that they're, as a descriptive nation, is going to be hated by the whole world, which is what exactly they want, because again, it's fulfilling the prophecy and then fueling more and more support. It's all scripted, it's all being played out, it's all part of an agenda in this late stage, or the last stage of civilization, the age of decadence. And we've reached this same stage again because history's been forgotten either by chance or design. So whether you're really interested in religions and belief systems or not, it's good to know at least the foundation, and not just by one particular source, but multiple sources, to really understand what's happening in the world. And it gives you a little deeper insight into, for example, what to expect. That's really my whole point here. But at the end of the day, what I tell people, regardless of which of the three, for example, top religions that I've been referring to here, I just tell people, set aside religions and belief systems, whatever they belong to. Just focus on the Most High, and you can't go wrong. And that's really all I have to say about all this. And hopefully this gets you thinking about religions and belief systems and what's happening in the world. And yes, we are in the late stage, and everything has become, as a descriptive, wicked and evil beyond imagination. And one final example of this, when you look at the United States, for example, there's only one state right now that has cannibalistic fundamentalism illegal. Think about that. And I've showed in specifically one particular video how people are openly talking about this. And there's a lot of people also now referring to a movie called Soylent Green from, I believe it was the 70s. And if you're not familiar with that, look that up. With the foods that we're eating and what the food actually is, what the meat is actually from. It's all scripted. But don't be consumed by any of these things, or you will go insane. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.
So I had to bring Benjamin Netanyahu, Palestine, I can't remember his name. And then I got my Zionist card out, which said I am a Zionist. And I bought everything. Shalom. Harry, listen, let me tell you something. Yeah? If there was a war tomorrow, which there will be, because I'll probably start at the end of the session. If there was a war and it kicked off, I would be there on the front line fighting for Israel. Do you know why? Why not? Why not? It's like Psyop, isn't it? Like his dad's come up to me earlier talking about Psyop, like, oh yeah, Psyop Rangers. You know what I mean? Palestine. Palestine. Why would you support Palestine?
Benjamin Netanyahu recently compared American conservatives to Nazis, calling them the, quote, woke right.
Influencers. You said, talked about the woke right. And you said, I call it the woke right. That's a brilliant. The woke right, because these people, you know, they're not any different from the woke left. I mean, they're insane.
And what did Trump say in response? He had the gall to say this while announcing his bid to create a version of TikTok in America censored by the Israeli government and where Israeli propaganda will be pushed.
We have to fight back. How do we fight back? Our influences. And secondly, we're going to have to use the tools of battle. You know, the weapons change over time. We have to fight with the weapons that apply to the battlefields in which we're engaged. And the most important ones are social media.
Just remember, I was one man against many.
fighting a losing battle, but I still fought to the end.
That means press on. That means endure. That means God cannot fail, and you're not going to give up. That's not an option for a child of God. This means you are going to be. Listen to this and write it down if you can't remember it. You're never going to outgrow warfare. You simply must learn to fight. I hear people saying to me, oh, when is it going to get easier? When you die.